Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's pick a card reading is all about shining a light on your path, and it was inspired by my recent purchase of an oracle called the Lantern Oracle from Blue Angel Publishing. I don't think it's necessarily a very new oracle, but it's new to my collection, and it's a beautiful one that looks at various aspects of life. And I think the concept of the lantern as being the guiding light through those various aspects of light is a really evocative one, and as I say, inspired this particular reading. So in this reading, we will be asking for Spirit to talk to us about 3 areas in your life where some light being shed on it, and a lantern taking you through the pathway would be helpful. And this could be because it's a contested or troublesome area. It could be something that Spirit's suggesting you revisit and look at from a different perspective. It could also be something that's going incredibly well, and Spirit just wants to cheerlead you on to make sure that you keep on keeping on. So it will depend what each one is, and they may turn out to be interconnected, or they may turn out to be in 3 very different areas of your life. Because we're looking at 3, probably more than most times, I would suggest to you that if you feel drawn to more than one pile, that may be a very strong indication that a couple of the areas we look at in one and maybe another in the other will be the right connection of the 3 areas Spirit wants to talk to you on. So certainly if you feel drawn to more than one pile, go to more than one pile. To help choosing the reading or readings that you go to, I decided, as I have been doing quite a bit lately, to use different tarot packs for the different readings. And I've chosen the Hermit card from each of the packs that I'm using because I think the Hermit energy really speaks to me about that lantern. You know, particularly say in this first one, you see the Hermit carrying a lantern, and in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot pack, which people are very familiar with, you have the symbol of the Hermit with the lantern. So it just seemed to me to be the obvious choice for this particular reading in terms of helping you find the right reading or readings to go to. But I've also got the spiritual symbols, tokens, sort of energies as well here, the tokens, to help you choose that as another way, if that's something that you relate to, the color or the symbol that in the sacred token that calls to you. So for each of them, and I'll put down the numbers as I know some people like that. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So for reading number 1, pile number 1, I have the Hermit card there from the Dream Visions Tarot with the Om sacred symbol. For pile number 2, I have the Hermit card from the Glitter and Gloom Tarot with the Metatron symbol. For pile number 3, I have the Hermit card from the Flights of Fantasy Tarot deck and the Pentacle or Pentagram symbol. And for pile number 4, I have the Hermit card from the Rebirth Tarot with the Flower of Life symbol. So hopefully one or more of those sorts of differences, or the numbers, if you find yourself particularly drawn to a particular number most times or all times that you go to pick a pile readings. Some combination of all of that will call to you. If you need to pause the video and meditate on it to decide, by all means do that. And as I say, by all means go to more than one reading if you feel drawn that way. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, as always, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So this rather complicated structure, I'll explain it to you so that it makes sense. Sorry, I'll push that up so that you can see it as well too. So what we're doing is that each of the Lantern Oracle cards represents one of the areas that we're looking at. And then I have some evolution of the soul type energy and also some Lenormand energy to give both the kind of spiritual aspect to this and the more practical fortune day-to-day aspect to it as well too. So what I get looking at this is, in fact, there is a common theme across it for you, pile 1. It does look as though all of these key elements come down to relationships around you, relationships with others and relationships with yourself. It could play out in things like career and your vocation, and I think when we use the tarot we'll get a better sense about whether any of these is particularly talking about this, or whether this is really 3 different versions of talking about you evolving from relying on others into relying on yourself. And why I say that is, firstly, the first one here, we have forgiveness. Hurt blocks our light. It suggests that there is someone in your life who has hurt you, or that you have been carrying hurts with you on some level. And the interesting thing is the Lenormand cards with it are the dog, which is normally a really good friend, and the Tower, which in Lenormand, unlike the tarot, is actually a very positive card of stability. So on its face, it suggests that there's a very stable friendship that either is going to help you deal with the pain or may have caused the pain. So you will know better which applies. So if you have had a friendship that has let you down recently that you thought was very stable, the first message I get from Spirit is it probably is stable, but what's going on with it is not dissimilar to what's going on here, because the soul evolution energy around you, understanding where you need to forgive yourself and others, is about you finding the answers within yourself and understanding that there is almost a solitary road that you need to follow for your life path. It doesn't mean that you have to be fully alone, that you can't have friends or relationships, but there is something unique and individual about what you are meant to be doing and how you pursue your life path. You have a very, very sharp mind. You won't settle for just anybody and anything. But I feel that's why there's an energy here where maybe you felt that your high standards for a relationship have been disappointed in some way. It could be that it's a relationship that you're going to separate from, whether it's a friendship or a love relationship that was very, very much a friendship as well. That is possible, but it might also be that you will be recalibrating that and forgiving yourself or others for what you need to do to make yourself less reliant on friends and your community and their viewpoint, and more reliant on yourself. Because we have a similar process here. We have the card of home. And this card is seeking to make sure that you have a light shining so that you feel at home, where you feel harmonious and where things strengthen your light and strengthen you. And over here we have enough, which is you were born enough. And then when we look at the Lenormand, there is something about some news coming. So something has either come to you recently that has made you really think about, where do I feel at home? Who do I feel at home with? It could also be things about your home life when you were a child and now what you need to do as an adult and so forth. There is something about the inner child, I think, that needs to be healed a bit with the gentle light of the moon and with an understanding, because again, Lenormand with the moon is more gentle than possibly the moon card is in tarot. So there is a sort of sense of a slow but steady awakening to the fact that you are enough. Maybe you didn't feel enough in your home life, maybe either when you were growing up or possibly a home life that you're in now. And that could be anything from a relationship that you're in and living with somebody, through to share house or something like that, or even within yourself. You're still not feeling at home in yourself because you have relied a lot on the viewpoints of others for your sense of self-esteem. And what this card is saying is that cutting the ties with that which was seen to be difficult is part of the key of this, knowing when to cut the ties. The Sky card is about that. It's about ending things that need to end. So it looks to me as though there's some information, and it could relate back to this friend, or it could relate to people that you're living with, or it could relate to sort of family and people that you feel at home with. And I think what it's showing us, interestingly enough, is that while you sit in the old energy of what felt comfortable, it might feel comfortable even if it is slow moving and it isn't giving you what you want and it isn't really creating what was unique in you, but it kind of feels comfortable because you're used to it, like an old shoe. It's still making for a difficult road for you. You feel like you have to persevere, that your loyalties, and this could even be you up here to some degree. You may be a very loyal friend and find it very hard to separate from things when it's not working out. But that makes a difficult road for you. And as I say, just as the old shoe may feel comfortable, it's also probably not the best footwear for a difficult road, if you think about it. So there's some information that you're going to get that helps trigger you thinking about this, though your answers are within what you forgive in yourself and forgive in others. And what it does is it takes you back, I think, to when you felt enough and what being enough would feel like, and in inner child things. And then you understand that your road becomes easier, because if you move away, if you make the cuts, that takes you away from the difficult, hard sort of yards into the innocence. It almost has a Fool and the tarot card energy to it, sort of new beginnings that are a lot more gentle. And it's much more easy. The other thing too is that the letter is normally good news, whereas I feel like the rider here is bringing news that causes you to finally make the break. So I do think they're all connected, whether it is around a friendship, whether it is around the patterns from your childhood, or whether it is around people that you're living with now, or whether it is even a fundamental change within you to understand that you're enough, you're unique, you're brilliant, you have the answers within, you don't have to settle for what you've always settled for. This could in fact be an offer coming to you. So it will be interesting to see if we get cards that suggest anything around a career or a creative opportunity, because that might make you cut the ties with the past that might have felt kind of comfortable but unfulfilling and really slow, and move into something that moves a lot easier for you. So I think the Spirit is saying that as long as you're prepared to forgive yourself and forgive others, work through what are the relationships that make you feel more than enough really and give you that sense that you can move forward, then you're moving with this energy well. But if you try to block the shifts, if it's because you feel you're being disloyal if you do that, or that a difficult road is what you're meant to be on and that's all there is to it, you're robbing yourself of this sense that really everything should be a lot easier for you once you allow that. So I'm going to pull out 4 cards for each of these from the tarot, because I want to see if I can get more of a sense about what areas of life this is really focusing in on, because this could be romance, it could be friendships, it could be career, it could be where you're living, really literally where you're living, it could be around opportunities to travel and move and so forth, and you've got to allow yourself to do that and the freedom to do that, whatever it might be. So let's see what other specific information that Spirit can give us through the tarot. Okay, so firstly, it's interesting that we have the Tower from Tarot as well as the Tower from Lenormand, and as I say, they are almost opposites. The Tower from Tarot is usually a fundamental shift where things aren't working, it breaks down to release new energy. The Tower in Lenormand is where things are very solid. The interesting thing, there's a lot about family in this, I have to say. So I think many of the people who have come to this, there is a family issue involved. It could be either your relationship with your parents and siblings, or it could be, if you are a parent, your relationship with your children. There's something like that, or there is something about childhood and childhood dreams associated with this. When we look at what needs to be forgiven, it looks as though there was something that broke apart a cherished childhood dream. And it may even be, as I say, the worst case reading of those cards before might have been a betrayal from a friend that shook you to your core and really made you question something that had been a lifelong thing. If that's the case, I think it's a friend from way back. It's a friend that you've known for very many years. If it's not a betrayal, it's something around that dream that you had when you were young, and what you're starting to see is emotionally true to you, and whether you have the energy to take it through to whatever it is. And I said, with the answers within there, I would think that you are very good at forgiving others. So I don't think forgiving others is the issue. I suspect it's forgiving yourself. You look like you don't have enough tolerance for yourself. You expect really, really high things of yourself. And I think you might have been trained into thinking that when you were young. And so part of it is about forgiving yourself. And you might have to separate from long-standing relationships, long-standing friendships to find out who you are. It could be that you have to break from a friendship circle, for instance, or just strike out on your own. And I think there is a little bit of concern about whether you have the energy and the capacity to go through with that. But you can use the Tower energy here very positively. And I think retain the right relationships from before. But the answers are within you, and you have to be prepared to be on your own. You have to be prepared to take that life path 7 if necessary. It's almost like a make or break thing around certain friendships or relationships. Are they going to survive and thrive with the new you, where you are more emotionally authentic and you forgive and support yourself and you understand yourself as much as other people? And that's going to be almost the guiding light, literally the lantern, so to speak, in all of this for you. Down here around what it is that you've almost been taught from either childhood or the living arrangements you're in, or even like a kind of base personality thing. Again, this sky and this message, it's about liberating you and bringing something into balance. This is very powerful, whatever this is. And I feel as though it's probably connected to, if it's in a relationship, it's connected, I think, to relationships that have some kind of legal implications around them. If it's not in a relationship, then if it's around your career, then I think something is ending and you are moving away with what was useful from it, but getting away from the tension and the sort of structural problems. If it is suggesting that something is coming in for you, like a career option, and we will look at some career cards around this, I think, because I'm getting a feeling about that for this, then if what you're hearing about is some form of new contract, make sure you check the details with the 5 of Swords there. Make sure you're comfortable that you're not going into a new form of the old thing, that you are actually not making a new difficult road for yourself. So be clear on that. And if the sky is actually news of separation from a career where you potentially leave a job, or there's a redundancy, there's a restructure, then I think that's well aspected for the legalities, but again, make sure that you're clear on all the details around this. Whatever you're finishing as a result of this, whether it's career or relationships or where you live, and again, if you're moving somewhere with where you live so that you don't get caught into a contract that's too much of a trap, check the details. That's the main message, I think, that Spirit wants to give you. It doesn't have to be as hard as you think it has to be. But whatever it is, you're finishing a cycle here. This news, this information helps you make a decision to finish a cycle, and I think to bring in something more balanced. Over here around the easy road that you're meant to be heading towards, and that understanding again that you are enough, there is recognition. There's potentially recognition from parents. If some of this is around your family and from really long-standing stuff from your childhood, you do look after a lot of hard work, and I think it's the hard work you've done over here. And then your decision to move towards what's more authentic to you, you do look as though you get the recognition of the 6 of Wands. If this is around career, then you are going into something where you will be recognised. There's a lot of abundance and probably good money, but it's also very, very hard work. So the easy road is not about you can sit and put your feet up. It's more that you've gone back to something that maybe you really wanted to do from childhood, something that's very true to you, something that you will get recognised for. But it's almost as a result of that, there's a lot of work that's going to come in. So do look around your well-being. So to drill into this more, I want to use the Heart Code Oracles, and I'm going to use ones that I think are particularly connected to these. So I think this is primarily about relationships. So I'm going to look at relationships around that. And this I feel is around career or finance, and this I feel might be around well-being. It's because even if it is around your career or some sort of monetary thing like that, or family, to move to that easy road, there's things around lifestyle and around well-being that I think are worth knowing, particularly with the 10 of Wands there. So firstly, I'm going to pull a couple of cards from the Relationship Heart Code Oracle to see what other energies we have around whatever this is that you need to forgive in yourself or in other people to make the changes that you need to make. So we have reach out, and we have chance. Okay, this feels quite specific to me, I have to say, Pile 1. It feels to me as though there is something about a friend where there maybe has been an estrangement, there maybe has been a misunderstanding, or in fact maybe they didn't approve of something that you did, or you didn't approve of something that they did. There's something like that. And it is saying that you do need to follow your own path. You don't have to do whatever it is that they wanted you to do, and you can shift the nature of the relationship. But there is still something there. That's going back to the dog card, I think, that and the Tower card from Lenormand. So this is a relationship that does matter. It's a friendship, a love relationship, whatever it might be, that does matter, that does have a lot of emotional authenticity, but it has been shaken by something, or is about to be shaken by something if it's connected to this news. But this is saying that you will get an opportunity to reach out, and you should, because you can still be yourself and follow this pathway over here, but there is something still of value there. Whatever this was, there is a capacity for mutual forgiveness, or you forgiving the other person, or them forgiving you if you've shifted gears and they were a little bit discombobulated by it. Okay, let's have a look at career and finance around this, because I do feel, particularly with the Justice card there and the Devil, that this could be talking about where you feel at home in terms of your career and your vocation, and energies that might be around you, contractually, legally, something like that causes a major shift. And I think takes you from a more difficult situation into a better situation, but only if you make sure that you check on the details. So we'll pull a career card and a finance card for you. So the career card says trust. And then we'll pull a finance card. Timing. Okay. So I think that trust has a dual meaning here. I think that there is an offer that will come to you that has a lot more of what you would like to do. And even if you're reasonably happy where you are, it's almost like it's a promotion or something like that takes you to more of a free-flowing, positive, this is really what you want to do type of energy with the right timing. And timing around the money is important as well too. But I keep hearing that term, trust but verify. That's what I feel is there. I think that with the 5 and with the Devil, but with the World, it's like I feel like the World and Justice ultimately are connected, that this is a good development, a recognition for what you do, a good contractual opportunity. But verify the details so that you don't feel that you're caught again in some way, and that the timing will be right on this. And timing may be important. It's particularly the case, I think, if some of this change has come from a change going on in the organisation. If you are someone who would like, potentially, say, to get a redundancy, and you're not necessarily going to be considered for one, but you hear that that's likely, it may be that communicating with the right people at the right time that you trust, that would see this just as a positive thing for you rather than disloyalty or anything like that, may be the thing that lets you get something like the redundancy and move on and use that seed money for whatever's new that you want to build over here. I am getting that this may literally be the case for some, and it may be a friend that you're working with who will find this wish for you to go off and do something else. Maybe initially they do feel like it's disloyal, but if you do reach out and you explain it, then you have that capacity to have their forgiveness and also to have that sort of liberation. It's a very specific thing, so you'll know whether this resonates for you, but it does look like they potentially could connect. Now over here, I want to just have a look at lifestyle and well-being, because I feel as though this is the road that you end up on, having sorted out this situation, worked out maybe career stuff. You have such a perspective for an easier, better road, but there is a lot of work involved, and so there are some lifestyle and health issues. So let's just ask for a card on each of those for you. So around lifestyle, we have momentum. Yeah, I think once you've made these decisions, once you've got this information, then you move very fast. And the rider over here definitely suggests that. So I do think whatever's happening in this space, and it doesn't have to be career. If you felt it was something else and it connects back to a relationship, that could be the case. But the rider moves quite quickly. And I think once that information is there and you make the decision, you make whatever cuts you need to make in your life, then there's momentum. And that's something to think about with the Ten of Wands, because momentum can be exciting and it can be exhilarating, but it can also be exhausting. So it's probably a good idea to get plenty of rest. So let's see what well-being energy Spirit suggests for you. Yeah, so this says tension. So yeah, there's tension. There's probably tension around whatever the shift is you're talking about here and getting to the details. There could be tension around the relationships as you sort all that out. And And muscular tension, I'm getting some of you. I definitely, personally, with the Ten of Wands, it can mean back problems. So there may be muscular sort of issues and areas and tension. So, get a massage, relax, meditate, those sort of things, because there is going to be a lot of change. A lot of change is coming through for you. Okay, so pile one, what I want to do is bring all this together now. So I also pre-pulled under the Hermit card 3 cards, a card of light, a card of shadow, and a card of healing, just to give us any last information on that. And then we're going to use the Astro Chakra cards for some energetic advice for you from Spirit. So the card of light is there is only light. Now that's a lovely message. I think this actually is true of this, even though I think there are some maybe difficult pills to swallow with some information you hear. At the end of the day, they are there to release you and take you to an easier pathway, relationship-wise, career-wise, whatever it is. It is only light. If some of this seems to be difficult, it's because it's meant to clear things out. And I think that's part of the 2 towers there together, because it's the revolutionary and the stability energies coming together. So it's a bit of both, but there is only light. So let's see what the shadow was, since Spirit's being pretty clear that overall this is a very positive message. The shadow is risk and reward. So I think, in fact, it's not much of a shadow. I think it is saying risk is always there. Whenever risk is there, that is, of course, a bit of a shadow, and there seems to be some sort of a risk in this shift. You will feel it either emotionally or career-wise or a bit of both. But that's how you also get the reward. That's how you get to the abundance of the Empress and the recognition of the 6 of Wands. So what may need to be healed in you to make the most of this? And it's sadness. So I do think there is something around the friendships or the family or relationships, whatever it is that is shifting so that you can become who you are. There is some sadness about it. There is the need to forgive yourself and to forgive others. There is the need to define what home is to you and to remember that you're enough. Those 3 key messages from the Lantern Oracle at the beginning. But I think it's saying that you have almost accepted a difficult road for yourself and a sad road for yourself. You've thought that's all that there is. But this is saying, no, that's not true. There is a much simpler and much more rewarding way for you when you understand that you are enough, and that the opinions of others, be they friends, family, co-workers, managers, whatever it is, it's not as important as your understanding of what you bring to the table. So to help you with that and to close it out, I'm going to pull 3 Astro Chakra cards just to give a final summation for some energy to help you with the lantern on these paths, or the path, I think, because there is only one light and there's only one path really that we're talking about here. Okay, so this is a pretty good summing up of it really. The first thing is that this is about your 3rd chakra, about your solar plexus, about your self-esteem, your self-actualization, and what makes you passionate. What do you really care about? And I think with some of the early indication cards there, you had some dream when you were young, and it doesn't even matter how old you are. It feels as though you may have slipped a little bit away from that and away from your energy and your passion because you wanted to sort of fit in with friends, with family, with societal expectations. This is about reconnecting with that, using your spirituality, using your crown chakra to remember from source what is your life path, because this is meant to be your life path. Pile 1, you are meant to be on a path that is easier, not necessarily without work, but easier, more connected to your childhood dreams, more connected to you understanding that you're enough, and therefore expressing it with a love for what you're expressing, with the Venus energy, with the creative chakra, the sacral chakra. So connect back to your life path, your inner self, and so forth through your spirituality. But remember, this is about you creating yourself. This is what it's really talking about. You've kind of handed over the definition of you to other people. It's time to take it back. There will be some pushback, I think. If it's around things like career, you will need to look at all the fine print to make sure that you're not sort of setting yourself up for a sort of repeated pattern. But there is a liberation and an affirmation coming through for you. So I do hope that that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope it was helpful and enjoyable. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome pile 2 to your reading. So this rather complicated layout I'll explain to you so that it makes sense. Each of these areas has a Lantern Oracle card, and this is meant to be showing us the kind of pathway or pathways on which the light of the lantern could be shed for your benefit by spirit. This is really interesting, I have to say, pile 2. I do think that there is definitely a career element around it, because that's very clear from this. And there's definitely a spiritual sort of element around it, because that is picked up by a number of the cards, the soul and the spirit self and so forth. But I think there's also a lot about power versus responsibility, and the inner integration of the two and the impact of that on life. So if I could explain, we start with spirit self, which is about being who you are as you are. And then we have inner integration, which is bringing together anything that isn't working within your life, and also how your inner idea of yourself is being reflected or not reflected by the external. And then we have confusion. So I think that there is something here within you in terms of either a relationship you're in, or career paths, or a bit of both, or it is a thing within your own balance that you're trying to work out. So one way of reading these cards up here is that it's talking about a relationship that has a lot of tension. So if you are someone who identifies with being a man, or with the sort of masculine side of the continuum, then it may be that you are feeling a lot of tension, a lot of arguments and so forth, difficulties, blockages and so forth around you being true to who you are. And part of that is about responsibilities, I think, that you shoulder at this point, and whether they are the right responsibilities to take on, because you're getting a lot of spiritual downloads, a lot of synchronicities that are possibly causing this tension. So if this is internal, there is a tension about being who you are against what responsibilities you already have to other people. If this is a relationship and your significant other, or whoever the relationship is, it doesn't have to be a love relationship, it could be a friendship, it could be someone in your family, but if the other person in this is someone who would identify with the masculine end of the continuum, then I think there's a lot of tension with that person. And I think that they consider that you have a high degree of responsibility to them, and they are likely to use the synchronicities or information around to try and control you. So there's a tension about you being who you are against somebody who possibly doesn't approve of it, or wants to control you in some way. And this could be in a love relationship, a friendship, or it could be in career. It's quite likely for, I think, many of you, it might be around career, and even your own, even if this is you and trying to work out your responsibility against what you want to do, because down here I think it's very much about you, because we have the inner integration card. And so this is all about finding the equilibrium of understanding yourself, who you are here, with what the world is demanding of you. And it's possible for some of you with the ring card there that this is about something connected to a significant other, a romantic relationship, and the commitments and responsibilities of those. That's a possibility. If not, it's about almost a relationship with yourself and a commitment to yourself. But there's confusion and there's clouds around it. The fact that the clouds are getting lighter close to the integration, it says the more that you can understand and integrate within yourself, even if this is being triggered by an external force, the more you're going to move past the sort of difficulty, doom and gloom, worry and etc. of the clouds. And for you, and I think it connects over you to career and your vocation, this is almost a war internally between your old soul, your sense of responsibility, your sense of following through on a tradition. It could be a tradition in your family about careers. It could be because you got committed and you got married, and even if it's not working out, you know, your sense of responsibility says you want to sort of stay with it, whatever it might be, with new territory that is being offered to you, either in relationship or in career or in both. There is definitely this same issue over around career, because you have the two almost fighting elements here of career success. And I think you are likely to be successful overall in your career, whatever you do, you know, now and in the future, but also a sense of maybe a failing mission for all the success with what might be your spiritual purpose and your spiritual legacy. Now, for some, I'm getting with the cross and Lenormand, that can be like a past loved one watching over you. You may, in fact, have some sense of responsibility to your family that preceded you, or to a relative or a sibling that passed away or something. There's something for some of you where there may have been something that you had meant to do or carry forward as a legacy, and you feel like to take on the career success that's being offered to you, potentially in new territory, might be to breach that responsibility and so fail that mission. But you're meant to move. You're meant to move in a direction around your career and cut through the confusion, because there is confusion around career. And I think it's an internal confusion about, do I almost sell my soul for the career success? Do I let down people that have expectations of me to really, claim my own success? But if I don't claim my own success, how am I true to myself? So it's like it most is working through career. It's like, or vocation, what you want to do to if you're studying, what you're studying with a view to your career, if you are in a career, where you're going with that. And there is definitely a journey to go on, but you are being pulled in two directions. And whether it's literally by someone who's putting a lot of pressure on you and making it really stressful, or whether it's your own sense of, I want to do something new. I want my career success to be on my terms and true to me. I want to integrate that, but I'm finding it hard because I was brought up to be so responsible, and I really care about the legacy that I'm carrying forward. There's a real push-pull, either internally or with someone else. So let's use the tarot. I'm going to put down 4 cards for each of these, just to see if we can get a little bit more information on each of them, to see if they're all connected or if they're coming out in different parts of your life. Okay. So firstly, what I would say about this is there's a lot of fire energy coming out of this. And I think what that's telling me is, across the board, this is about creativity, passion, what is true to you. But I think that you tend to avoid making decisions around that and tend to avoid stepping into your power. If we look here firstly at where the real tension is occurring with other people, I think, and where it could become debates or arguments, with called, which is judgment in this particular pack reversed, you are avoiding making the decisions that would really express your view in what appears to be a contested area. With the 9 of fire reversed, there is a sort of, oh, I've got to be careful what I say, I've got to be careful what I do, I can't make a decision. But you are meant to be the ruler of fire, which in this deck is both the king and queen, so that sense of self-actualized, creative and so forth. But it is bringing up a lot of debate. There is something, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your study, whether it's in your relationships, where it's overheated, like it is really overheated. And part of what is happening, I think, is that you are starting to step into your power, and that is threatening certain people, I think, threatening certain energies, decisions and so forth. So you feel like you have to kind of walk on eggshells around everything and be really careful around what you do, and you're not making that decision because of the tension. And that tension is also within you, because I think you sort of feel that the ruler of fire side of you, I think you almost feel it's selfish or something, or it's letting certain people down. But I think Spirit is trying to show through this how much that mantra that's been put into you about responsibility to others may in fact be suppressing who you really are. Then here, when we look at how it integrates, again, you're not moving forward, you're actually putting a spoke in your own wheels with the Chariot reversed. And the 7 of fire reversed is you don't have the courage yet to move forward. You are very much influenced by rules, protocols, what is traditional and so forth. And the 6 of water reversed suggests it came from childhood, but in a way that wasn't going to be true to you. So there's something in your legacy, something in your family which isn't integrating because it's more about rules and responsibility and less about who you could be. So again, it's like your old soul is part of the reason why the new territory is coming in for you. But you need to relieve the guilt that you have about it to integrate with yourself. The ring here, I'm sure, is about you integrating more with yourself, more marrying yourself in a way, rather than all the expectations of other people. And then over here, as it's manifesting, I think, around your career, we have the Four of Fire. So there is definitely good people around you and good opportunities around you. And the Four of Earth, there you're stabilizing something. You really do, even if it feels confusing because you feel like going after what you want is getting in the way of the legacy or whatever. There is a capacity to build a new family, in a sense, around yourself and a new sense of stability, and to celebrate that with the Three of Water, to enjoy what you're doing more. But the Four of Water there, I think, which is a kind of discontent, I think, is where you feel, again, am I letting go of half of myself? So I think that Spirit is saying that you really do have to be a little bit more selfish at this stage. It doesn't mean that you're really throwing the baby out with the bathwater and that you can't sort of move forward and take that legacy forward and keep your responsibilities or whatever. You can, but you are given an opportunity now to integrate who you are and to get those things in better balance and to not put the brakes on yourself all the time. And if this is around very direct responsibilities around family and so forth, there is a way to balance that out. There is. But if you assume the worst and you stop yourself, you stay stuck in this tension. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at some heart code oracles. So I'm going to look around relationship up here because it's definitely about relationships of some sort. And then I think I'm going to have a look at career around both of these because I think they're both, actually I might look at well-being and career here and just career and finance here because I feel like there's a well-being sort of inner integration energy here, but they're both about kind of career or vocation, and then this is more how you establish it. So let's pull a couple of cards firstly around relationships for the first pathway, about being yourself when I think there is a lot of pressure on you and potentially some quarrels and drama whenever you try to express that. Got reach out, that's interesting, that came up for another one. So there may be some people who can help you with this, some people who can validate what you do and even help you with the responsibilities I'm getting. It's like you don't have to burden everything on your own shoulders. There may be other ways to come through that. And we've got safeguard. Okay, I do feel, I'm getting, this is quite specific, but I do feel that for some people there is something around family relationships, maybe children, something like that. I think this is just saying that instead of staying within the tense scenario and worrying only about your responsibilities and putting yourself last, there are people that you could reach out to that would give you the safeguards to be able to negotiate something that was more fair, more reasonable, more balanced, less tense. So definitely that's there. And if you feel that and relate to that, reach out for the sort of right professional services that can help you. Don't just rely on a tarot reading. Okay, as I said, we're going to look at well-being as well as career here. So well-being firstly. Okay, that's very specific. Dental. So that may be, that Spirit may be saying there that in fact it's not that much of an issue around well-being here. It is really just about integrating what your career is, but with something like that, maybe just check out your dental. It could be saying if you are feeling this tension, you might be someone who grinds your teeth or something like that. So pay attention to that as a sign of needing to get things integrated emotionally, if that's the case. Okay, so I'm going to pull one for career here, and then I'm going to pull two for career over there. So there's a very strong career feeling to this reading, hence why we're getting quite a few cards from the Heart Code Oracles around career for you. So firstly, communication. So this is saying that, again, it suggests to me that communication, reaching out, there are ways to sort this out and to integrate. And I think it's also communication within, like find that sort of balance between your old soul responsible person and your person who really wants to go out into new territory. And then two more career cards, I think, for you to see how this manifests over here and how you come through the confusion that you're feeling, particularly in that space of your life. So we have resilience and we have advance. Okay, so I think what this is saying to you with the ship there, I think that connects to the advance. You're moving forward, you're going on a mission, you are going to have career success, and you have to have some resilience to go through it, because there will be pressure on you as to whether or not you're letting the team down on some other level, or letting somebody down in what you're doing and so forth. It's like you were given a mission by somebody else, but it wasn't really your mission. You've just taken on the responsibility of it. And so I think there will be pressure around that. That's where the confusion's coming from. So be resilient around that and continue advancing. Step by step, you will get to where you want to go. There is a journey that you're going on for your career. Okay, so let's bring all this together for you, pile 2. Let's have a look firstly at a card around light, a card around shadow, and then a card around healing. These were all also under the Hermit card that you chose to come to this reading. So the light message for you is Soulcraft. So I think that fits nicely with this, because this is talking about your spirit soul and it's talking about your inner integration. If you were to think about developing your own soul and your own self and your own mission and all of those things devoid from what everybody else is expecting of you and arguing with you that you should do, then you would find that you could do as balanced and beautiful and resonant and forward-moving a type of self-development in any aspect of your life, because it's like a craft to you once you do it. That, in fact, I'm getting that for some people see that in you. They know that when you focus on something, it gets done, and that's the career success there as well too, and the responsibility. But if you focus on you and make your soul just as important as everybody else is trying to make everybody else be to you, then that becomes your work in progress. That becomes the way forward. The shadow that you need to deal with, okay, is ancestors. So, yeah, a lot of this I think is from sort of family, or those who are in your extended family in one way or another, and legacy. There's a real sense of legacy here. I think you are meant to break free of that and move forward. And that's the shadow, because you do feel very loyal to that as well. So it's about finding your way through the confusion of that and trying to honour it without making it the main thing. And it probably connects back to this crafting your soul to be more in balance and just as much about you as anybody else. So what you need to heal is temptation. Okay, so there's a couple of things I'm getting for that. One is the temptation to just do what everybody wants and get their approval and fulfill your legacy and fit in with all the sort of cultural things and so forth, and not really think that your soul is going to be limited in that. To just go, I can just go with the flow, I can just not make the decision. I can just sort of like move forward and keep the peace. And I think that's one of the temptations. The other may be for anybody who related to this being a significant other where there was temptation. It may be a very passionate relationship, but one that is also full of tension and causes confusion and other requirements of you in what you might want to do for yourself. So the temptation of that may be something that you need to heal so that you're focusing on your soul craft. So to bring it all together for you, pile 2, I'm just going to pull 3 soul cards, not soul cards, 3 Astro Chakra cards to bring it all together and show what energies would help you. Okay, so I think this is actually really specific message. You have Saturn twice, and you're all over Saturn, part 2. You are heavily into responsibility, into the legacy, into what you're required to do, what an old soul will do, all of that. You're very much there, but you need to love what you're putting that discipline into and focus on that. You need to create what that is so that your responsibility is connected to what you really want to create, to your soul craft. And creativity again, so your solar plexus chakra twice, is connected to your path, your sun, your inner self, which is to be creative in some way. So this may very much be someone who is following a traditional path in terms of career that their family have done. All our family are lawyers, so I'm going to be a lawyer. All our family were in financial services, so I'm going to be in financial services. But it's the soul of an artist, the soul of a creative person, for instance. Certainly, that says that it's like the Sun and Saturn are conjunct. So you will never, this is the message you need to get, you will never actually abrogate real responsibility. The issue here is whether responsibilities have been put on you that aren't real, that aren't legitimate, that are holding you back in some way. So to integrate those and understand what responsibilities are truly yours and that you will take on because you are loyal to the end, but not to let people use that to make you take on their responsibilities or make you fit what it is that they think you should be. Because you're meant to create yourself. Then you're going to have all the discipline, responsibility, legacy, everything that you want, and it will be something that you love and comes from the heart. So Pile 2, I hope that resonates for you, and I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So this rather complicated spread I'll explain to you as we go along. I'm just trying to get it so that you can see most of the cards properly. So each of these cards are from the Lantern Oracle, and they are the 3 pathways or areas where the light of the lantern could be helpful and some advice from Spirit could be helpful. And they may or may not connect. They may be quite separate. I think in many ways these are quite separate. But they're all about relationship in one form or another. One may be particularly around career, but I think it's almost like one is around family or loved relationships, one is maybe around friendships, and one is maybe around career or collaborator. So it's very strong relationship energy. In the first one, we have creative power, and that could be a connection to your own inner creativity and what you want to create in the world. And if so, it has a connection to your ancestors, to your cultural heritage and so forth. And to become clear on that, you are giving up any destructive habits, you're getting balance into your life and so forth. And it may be after a period of time with the lily there where you haven't felt particularly healthy or particularly balanced in some way. The lady card there could be you if you identify with the feminine end of the spectrum, or it could be a friend, or it could be a relationship, just depending on a loved relationship, potentially. It could, with this combination, be talking about a mother, someone who is in the process of preparing to give birth or has just given birth, has looked after their body, is connecting through the ancestral lines, has possibly spent a little bit of time in hospital. This doesn't have to mean hospital, but it can mean that kind of thing. It can mean recovery from illness. It's a positive card, and that could be connecting to that, or it could be to a friend or a midwife or a mother or something that is helping with that. So there's definitely for some people here something to do with fertility, to do with starting a family, or to do with things that are maternal in the way that we think of it traditionally in some way, but in other ways it might be around creativity. But in either case, it is about bringing something into being. So you are either bringing a new life into being or participating in bringing a new life into being, or you are bringing something creative into being, but it is after clearing your energy systems. And I think that Spirit wants to applaud you for that. And I think actually ancestral spirits around you want to applaud you for that you have moved up in consciousness and you have healed a lot of inner work to bring the right creativity out. So that's one part of it. Here, there's a friendship or something like that. It could be siblings or family members as well too, but I think in most cases it's probably friends, where you've been very loving and loyal, but there's been some sort of gossip or something. There's someone around you who's a little bit immature. It's coming up as a teenage soul. And so, and what I think about with that is a soul that is really starting to try and, test its boundaries, be who it wants to be, but hasn't necessarily got the life experience yet to understand the consequences of everything that it's doing. So it's someone around you, a friend. It could be a sibling or a child. I mean, if this is actually from a longer period of time and this is, you've got a teenage child, it could be connecting back to that energy to look at a child now literally, starting to spread its wings in some way. But I think for most, when we've got repair here, which is making amends, repairing issues, there's been some sort of gossip or something with the birds card there, and you probably heard about it, or you may have gossiped about someone. You might have had, although you are generally a very loyal person, maybe you kind of got a little bit sort of affronted by something and you gossiped a bit and you need to make amends. So it's going to be one or the other. But I think for most, it feels more as though you're the sort of solid person here. Someone needs to make amends to you, but you might need to be the one to hold out your hand. With the tree there, it's very well aspected that it will sort itself out. So we'll get a little bit more detail with the tarot, but it does look like it's more like a little spat around somebody acting out than it is anything major, but it is important to recognise it and move quickly on it and make amends. Over here is something more serious. And I feel like for many of you this is around work, but it could be around a significant other. So it could be either. This card is radical honesty. This is about being really true to yourself, putting on armor and dealing with alienation and so forth if you need, because it's when we aren't true to ourselves and we're not radically honest that we ultimately bring in self-denial and so forth. This is standing up to something that has not been true. And it's a significant thing with the mountain. So, and part of it, and why I think it might be around career, collaboration, money or something, it's connected to level 2 consciousness, which is starting to move beyond materialism to get to that radical honesty. And the need to spend more time alone, and we've got the lone wolf there as well too. So this looks to me as though something that may have had a material career or something like that sort of aspect, you need to be more honest with yourself that it isn't working and cut the ties, I'd say, and spend time on your own, because there is something that is not being honest with you at the moment, and it's not a minor matter. If this is around a relationship, worst case reading of this, and I'm not saying that anybody is necessarily in this situation, but I'll just say what the cards can say. Could be saying something in a significant other relationship means that you may have to stand more on your own 2 feet around family, for instance. Now that, I'm not necessarily saying that anybody who comes here that's the case, but if that resonates, you'll know that it resonates. I think these things are separate though. To me, I think most people come here, there's something about creativity or family there, there's something about friendship there, and I feel this is around work. It's significant for your material outcomes, but you recognise that just going along with it, because it could be in a work culture that just doesn't fit with your ethics, for instance, and you've gone along with it for the money, but you're moving past that. You're knowing you have to be true to yourself. May even be the thing that makes you step out and run your own business, for instance. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the tarot to get a little bit more information on each of these before we drill into them in the kind of detail around the areas of life that are most being shown. So I'm going to do 4 cards for each of the pathways. Okay, so looking up here around the one that I feel is around creativity in one form or another, it looks to me as though one of the reasons that this is a very precious pathway, and there's a feeling preciousness around that creativity, and why it's important to get rid of any destructive habits, physical, mental, emotional, or whatever, is it looks as though whatever this was, whether it's starting a family, whether it's a creative project, whatever it might have been, you've gone through a process where it didn't fully come into being, that the promise of it, what you wanted to do, did not come into being. And I think it's partly because the emotional implications and almost the physical and material implications had not yet really been sorted through. That's why I have this strong sense of almost coming more into balance health-wise, whether it's literally to have a child or whether it's sort of emotionally and so forth to take a creative project forward. But Spirit is saying because of that, there is now a real capacity to do what this is. And in fact, whatever it is that you're trying to create, if you've been blocked before, it's going to happen very quickly, and you're going to have the right material assistance to do it. So if you have been feeling, am I ready? Yeah, there's ancestors watching over you, I think, and so forth. Am I ready to take this forward? Am I ready to have the child? Whatever it might be, then you're heading into a period of time where it happens a lot more quickly and a lot more successfully, and you have the right support around you. So I think it's just really Spirit saying, yeah, don't fall back on when it didn't work out before. You've worked out within yourself, emotionally, materially, physically, whatever it might be, what you needed to do. You've healed whatever you needed to heal. So now that is actually going to flow a lot easier. Down here with this friend or whoever it is who's been a bit of a gossip or a bit of a pain or a bit immature, it's only a fairly minor thing as long as you move on it quickly. It actually says here with the Hangman reverse, it's your capacity to look at things from different perspectives and to reach out, because this person probably sulks a bit and doesn't really want to deal with what they do. But your capacity to reach out and to remind them in a sense of what was really good in the friendship or relationship, and your different perspective really helps. They're just overly emotional, this person. You've got to ground them and show them what investment one can have in a good friendship. I just feel they're a little bit dramatic. This person is a little bit dramatic. They're a little bit like a teenager. And if it is a teenager, then they're just doing what teenagers do. But certainly your perspective and your capacity to bring that out and to make the amends. And really it's not, I don't even think it's you making amends. It's you really just giving the bridge for them to do it. But don't be surprised if it's not as simple as them going, oh, I'm sorry. I think it's more that you'll see it through actions rather than words. But you can see that you can build on that. So I think Spirit is just saying, deal with that quickly. Just lance the wound, basically, because it'll be fine. It's just a little bit over dramatic. This one over here, I think the King of Swords is picking up the snake there. I think this is potentially the not good elements of Swords cards, and particularly in the court card area. There is someone who you have to be careful of, that you can't trust as much as you would like. I think this is probably in a career or collaboration, as I say. This is why we've got the Nine of Pentacles supporting the lone wolf and going it on your own. This is the person who does their own creative project, does their own business, goes it on their own to some degree. And if you are in an organisation and you're an employee and you don't want to run a business, it may be separating a bit from someone who used to be a collaborator to establish yourself. Certainly you can bring this into balance, but it's sort of done a little bit behind the scenes. So if you're in an organisation and this is a person you're collaborating with, or it's someone who's a manager, you can't do a full frontal attack on them. That's not going to work. You need to come across as the balanced person who brings in the results, but you need to keep your own counsel. And it may be eventually that you move on, or it might be that you get other opportunities within the organisation, but you need to keep as balanced and as practical and as quiet an approach to this, because this person is very slippery, can't be trusted. So just be aware of that. It's a big issue if it's not handled correctly. But I think Spirit is saying you definitely have the wherewithal to handle it correctly. You just need to be aware that don't show your hand too quickly. So I'm going to look at relationship energy, I think primarily around these two, because I think with the Heart Code Oracles, because I think we are talking about maybe a relationship and well-being there, because there could be the thing around, childbirth or something like that. Relationship overall there, and then we're going to look at career and maybe finance there. So we'll start with relationship and well-being up here. So if you're not familiar with them, the Heart Code Oracles have different packs for different topics, so I'm just using the topics that I think these energies are talking about. So firstly, a relationship card for you. We've got criticism. Okay, so I think this is you with self-criticism, to be honest. I think that you've given yourself a hard time about things that haven't worked out before, and that's had an effect on your sort of like confidence and so forth. I think this is coming forward to know that you've done the work that you needed to do. If you've critiqued your life around how you create things, how you keep things in balance, you've now got to the point where that's been constructive criticism and you can move forward. Don't stay in this energy where things didn't work out. Let's have a look at well-being. We've got mental health. Yeah, it's stress. All that's really left at the moment around whatever this is, whatever you're trying to create, whatever that is the stress and memories of what happened before. You really have taken the time out and you've done what you needed to do. You are going to be able to release a lot of that tension. If you have any of it left, then think about, what would help your mental health. Is it going to a spa? Is it sort of seeing a therapist? Whatever it is, don't get critical of yourself for needing that if that's the case. It really would be just the last pieces of something you've been working on. And if some of the criticism has come from family around how you want to do your creativity, how you want to have your own family, whatever it is, then give yourself some boundaries so it doesn't affect your mental health. Because again, Spirit is saying you've done what you needed to do to bring things into balance. Okay, so we're going to have a look at relationship only here, I think. And then we're going to have a look at career and finance over there. Actually, I'm going to do relationship and lifestyle here because I think there might be a bit of a lifestyle issue, particularly around maturity. So relationship first. Third party. Okay, all right, so that puts an interesting complexion on it. It could be whatever this gossip is someone who's getting in the middle of a good friendship or in the middle of a relationship, or there could be gossip about a third party in a relationship. So there's something there, but remember that whatever this third party is doing, I feel is immature and isn't helping. That whatever the core relationship is that they're impacting has a lot more going for it than whatever this is about. So that's interesting. So let's have a look at lifestyle. And it says cycle. Yeah, this is just a cycle. This is just a stage. Like, if there's a third party involved in this, and I suspect with most of you are, and that makes sense with the gossip card, they're kind of blowing it up out of proportion, and you can sort it out because things just go through cycles, and people do have little spats and get a bit petulant about things sometimes, particularly if someone's sitting in that teenagey sort of thing. So let the cycle go through. It's not something that's staying put. It's not sort of got stuck. It's just something to move through. All right, so let's have a look at career and finance over here. So career firstly. We've got denial, okay. I'll just put out finance first before talking about that. Gift. Okay. There's some quite specific things, I think, with this. Firstly, I think this is saying this is not something you want to see. So it's quite likely if you've been listening to this, you're going, oh, no, I can trust people or whatever. But I think you would know, there's a niggling feeling, you would know what this is. And you would know that you need to sort of branch out more on your own. There could also be denial being directed at you. You could be trying to speak your truth in some way and it's being denied. And that might be why we've got the Four of Swords there, that you need to hold your counsel, that you aren't necessarily in an environment at the moment or a situation at the moment where the truth can be heard. Gift suggests to me that there will be another opportunity coming to you. The only warning around this though is with gift turning up is whether it has strings attached. So if you do not relate yet to something where you think someone is not being honest with you, it might be that a gift is coming to you from someone who appears to want something from you, and the strings attached to that are the thing that you need to be watching out for, because they may in fact demand more of you than you're going to get. It could be gifts with consequences and with strings attached. If it's not somebody helping you out of this situation, it may in fact be the mechanism that draws you into it by making you beholden to someone. So be careful about what you accept from people, whether it's a literal gift, whether it's sort of a bonus if you do something, even whether it's a lot of praise, because it could be being used to manipulate you. So be aware of that. Okay. So let's have a look, bringing it all together. Firstly, I had some other cards under the Hermit card, and one was for the light energy around it, one is for the shadow, and one is for the healing. So the light energy around you is inner voice. That works on a number of levels, I think, for this. Firstly, it's trusting your own balance. It's knowing that whoever's blowing everything up with the gossip or whatever is not the person to listen to. Listen to your own inner knowing and take things forward. And over here, don't deny what you're hearing, but keep that voice to yourself. It's the inner voice that will ultimately take you through all of these to the best possible outcome. The shadow that you need to deal with This ghost is regret. So there may be regrets related to whatever didn't work out creatively or family-wise up there. There could be some regret about relationships or even regrets for being taken in. But like that is just the thing that gets you stuck in the past. The thing about ghosts is they're stuck in the past. They just relive things over and over and over. So I think it's important not to do that, to take the learnings, move forward. And what you need to heal to do that, okay, it's got something to do with beauty. So I think this is understanding your own beauty and accepting your own beauty, whether it's sort of health-wise, creatively, whether it's how you are as a friend, or whether it's what you would do on your own in a career or creatively, your own internal beauty. But maybe also your response to beauty, I'm getting. So it may be that some of these people that are either being a bit emotionally manipulative or straight out lying might be very beautiful, might be very physically or in some other way attractive, beautiful voices, beautiful energy around them or whatever. But you can see the snake there coming in. There may actually be a temptation that you have towards that for thinking that that is a sign of moral virtue. There was some book I read once and I really can't remember what it was, so I can't really attribute it, but it had a character who said that they see beautiful people and that they then ascribe to them all these wonderful virtues just by virtue of the beauty. So it may be a bit of a message, a double message there. You could either need to heal your own sense of your own beauty, or it might be that you are a little bit taken by beauty. If that makes sense, then just bear it in mind when you're making your decisions. Okay, so to bring all this together, I'm just going to put out 3 Astro Chakra cards just to give you final advice from Spirit. Spirituality, power. I just remembered, I think the book I was talking about might have been The Secret History by Donna Tartt, but if you know that book well and you don't remember anything about that, then don't quote me on it because I could be misremembering. Anyway, bringing this all together, your inner self, you're very connected to source. I think that's also connected to ancestors, connected to all that sort of, and that's why you'll bring things into balance. So remember always to go into your spiritual self and what you truly want to be as a spirit, as a way to find your direction with the sun there. That allows you with the 3rd chakra, the solar plexus, to find your own self-actualized power and to bring in the Neptunian inspiration that gives you respect. Maybe some of this is about claiming respect, I'm getting across the board. Respect for your choices, health and otherwise around your creativity. Respect for how you're treated as a friend. Respect for how you operate sort of in your career and with your vocation and so forth. And using your inspiration, your inner voice to demand and achieve that respect. And then we have the heart chakra with Venus, with love. So it's a double love about harmony. I actually think what we're seeing here is these two have to balance, and this is your source of it. I think that your wish for harmony, whether it's with your ancestors, your family, or the expectations there, your friends, and even at work, may be the thing that gets in the way of getting the respect. But if you balance those two things through remembering who you are at a soul level, then you will get the respect and you will get the harmony as well. But it's harmony that's true rather than harmony that's been bought in a way from you with you making all the sacrifices. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3. I hope it was enjoyable. And if so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. This is a rather complicated spread. I will explain to you so that we can go through it. So each of these cards are the cards from the Lantern Oracle. So they each are 3 pathways that may or may not be connected. I think in this case they are. And they are the areas where a lantern light and some sort of advice from Spirit and clarity from Spirit would be helpful for you. And then we have Evolution of the Soul cards for what that means for you spiritually, and also Lenormand for a little bit about the fortune energy around you. And then we'll drill into more detail with tarot and other oracles. This group's the really spiritual group, which is not to say that any of the others are not spiritual, but the whole message of these 3 things, and they are connected, I believe, is about a spiritual path. And I think This is saying what needs to happen so that you can get to this and what you need to bear in mind. Because the first card in the Lantern Oracle is about transitions, and it says you have all of the inner resources you need to cross whatever bridges arise on your path. Your issue is you are either, I think, moving from being very much in the spotlight, stardom, the sort of vibrant person in the room, all that kind of thing, to something that is more elevated as a teacher, or the other direction. You've been a teacher, you've been someone particularly around spiritual or alternative methodologies or whatever it might be, that is meant to step much more into the spotlight. So it could be either or. It'll depend upon, who comes to this reading. That's the transition. It's either from being sort of in the spotlight and a celebrity into being someone that people really follow, or from being somebody that people follow to the extent that you become a bit of a star. And the issue for you is that you are very happy with wherever you are right now. You really want to stay put. You see that as a gift, but it is time to make the transition. You are meant to move forward, but I think you are reluctant to do it. And you could do any number of things. So if you were a teacher, you might demonize stardom as being too narcissistic. If you were in the spotlight, you may feel like you're diminished if you just move to teaching. Or you may feel, look, I look fantastic and I sound great, but I really don't have enough to actually teach anybody yet. I'm comfortable in my lane. I'm comfortable in my groove. But this is time to start thinking about moving forward. And there may in fact be an opportunity, like a gift, like the bouquet there, that comes along to show you that it's time to do it. Whatever that is, it is about moving forward. Even if you feel it isn't, even if you feel it's moving sideways or whatever, this is meant to take you forward. But there is a degree of stillness and self-reflection that is necessary for that, because you are very, very spiritual. You may well be a starseed with the Sirian connection. If not, it's the qualities of the Sirian energy, leading a simple but quiet spiritual life, caring for the earth, connection to the ascended masters, being a source of light. That is who you are. So if you are worried you're going from a teacher to a stardom and you're going to become the world's greatest narcissist, it's not going to happen. And if you were very much stardom and you were very much in the public eye, then this teaching, there is something that you have to teach people that comes from a simplification. It may even be a simplification of, I'm less now about the influencing that I have and I'm more about the message, for instance. So it really depends, and I'm not putting a value judgment on either of them. They are both valuable. You may be a teacher who's meant to be on a higher level of recognition and being seen and being a star, and that is wonderful. It's not shallow. But equally, you could take celebrity and make it into something to teach. Whatever it is, you are meant to be doing something like that. And celebrity could be anything. It could be just amongst your friends. It could be in a workplace. It could also be on YouTube, or it could be on stage and screen. It just depends on who you are. But you are meant to do it. But for some reason, the shift in whichever direction it is, you're not entirely comfortable with, but it is about moving forward. It's not about losing the other one. It's about enhancing it, I think, and taking it to a different level, or focusing it more potentially to connect in with this. And it's a very fortunate thing to do. But it may make you feel like you go from being very accomplished to being sort of a novice again. So if you were someone who was a great influencer, for instance, then moving to a teacher level, you might think, I have to learn all this stuff about how you educate people, because I don't really know how to do that. I know how to talk, but I don't know how to educate, for instance. If you're a teacher and you're meant to sort of step up onto a broader sort of platform, you might go, well, I've got to learn all about, if you're going onto YouTube, I've got to learn how to do all of that. And like, oh my goodness. But if you can get into that mindset of the child and the novice and the fool and that new journey, there's a lot of good fortune, including monetary, to be made from that. But it's all about forward momentum. The issue for you that you have to deal with is that you have to understand that it's strong to be vulnerable. So like I was saying, if you feel one of your issues is you'd go back to almost the beginning mindset, the beginner's mindset, then you have to see that as a strength, because that allows you to be vulnerable. You can't take shortcuts. You kind of don't want to necessarily, and it's perfectly understandable, you're comfortable where you are, but you don't necessarily want to lose that comfort. You'd like to make the shortcut, but there's no shortcut road to this. This is a major transition to move forward. So you need to be strong enough to be vulnerable, to be the spirit baby, So, and in this, technically you could in fact, have a child or something like that that is inspiring all of this, inspiring you to sort of move into a teacher mode, for instance. Or I think this is more likely for most to be about your kind of spiritual baby, who you really could be if you married these two things together and you went through the change. But you've got to be prepared to be vulnerable and understand that's a strength, and understand that's even something that you can be teaching other people in some way. But you worry that it's going to eat away at things with the mice there. The mice eat away at things, eat away at confidence, eat away at resources, eat away at something. This is saying it can't touch you too much because you have luck with clover, but you may worry that the luck that you've had, you might think, gee, whatever this was, whichever it was that you weren't, that all came very easy, it all came very natural. I'm very comfortable there because it all happened easily. If I start being vulnerable, maybe that luck, that good fortune will start to be eaten away. But Spirit is saying that's in fact your greatest strength to move forward and to get to the true outcome and the true connection to your spirituality, and it is something spiritual. So regardless of whatever it is that you're doing, this could be picking up things in your career, and the career may not be spiritual, but there is a spiritual aspect to it. You are a being of light, and you are meant to be representing that in some way, teaching others or representing it in some way in what you're doing. So this is very, very spiritual. We'll drill into it a bit more with the tarot to see a little bit more detail about how it manifests, so I can work out what heart code oracles are best able to advise you on each of these. So let's have a look with 4 cards for each of them, what more detail Spirit can give us about this major transition that you have the opportunity to go through to really move forward and to make so much more of what you are and what you could achieve in your life. Okay. I think for the greater majority of people who've come here, you're probably more in whatever you do like the teacher at this point than the star with the Hierophant there. Or if you are a star, it's in a very conventional sort of way. You're in a conventional organisation and you're the top performer. You are literally a star, like you're on stage and screen, and it's very much sort of mainstream sort of stardom or whatever. But there's something that's structured and traditional around where you are at the moment, and it's also probably why you feel anchored to it, and you feel like it's a gift to have been accepted in your industry, accepted in your milieu or whatever. But it's the law of diminishing returns with the King of Pentacles reversed, and there is a sense of a burden to keep up stardom even with the star reversed. It's like if you don't shift to be more than the teacher to become the star, or to be more than the star and become the teacher as well. It's like literally Spirit is saying whatever you think you're holding on to, the more you hold on to it and don't shift, the more that it actually moves away from you. So the less money you could make in a career, the less recognition you could get, the less hope you might feel about things, and the less outcome for all your effort. So it's the conventionality of whatever you're doing, the being stuck in I'm accepted. It's almost like you need to shift industries or something like that to do this, or shift spiritual approaches, spiritual groups, religion, something, because it's not giving you the security that you think the anchor is giving you. It will start to be the law of diminishing returns. If, however, you start going forward, it does mean letting go of some things that you've emotionally been sort of wedded to some degree. But on another level, with the 8 of Cups, once you let them go, you're letting go of what isn't working anymore, what wasn't working anymore. You just need to be able to make the decision. You find it hard to intellectually justify this to yourself. But if you go into your heart, Spirit is saying, go into what it is that, and again, Ace of Cups makes me think of the childlike approach to things, then you can be a lot happier. Like there's a lot more happiness that comes, and a longer lasting happiness than whatever it is that you're feeling comfortable in at the moment. And if this isn't something spiritual career, as I say, or even if it's a relationship, though I don't think this is really too much about a relationship, but if it was, it's a relationship that's very conventional, but it's not really giving the emotional and hope and passion that it once did, or that you thought it might, because it sort of ticked all the boxes or whatever. But I really don't think, for the most part, this is about relationship. I think this is about spiritual vocation, career, and so forth. Over here, the High Priestess reversed with shortcuts. It's like you have such a strongly attuned spiritual radar that you know that you have to do the work, and you know that this needs to happen. But again, you're kind of denying it a bit. You want to sort of stay where you feel comfortable. But again, the Sun is reversed. Your worry about your fortune diminishing or being vulnerable, you make yourself vulnerable by denial. And you make yourself vulnerable by staying conventional. The Knight of Wands needs to be the right way up. It needs to be passionately following what you want. So this really is a significant key message, clear message for the people who've come here. If this doesn't resonate, you haven't come to the right reading. You are ready to step into a new role, a new level, or whatever it might be. It feels like a really big shift and you feel like, oh, I was comfortable where I was. But if you don't do it, you start to get less and less out of where you are, and you're really denying what you have to bring to the world and what you have, and the joy of learning, really, and the joy of finding that strength and vulnerability. So I'm thinking in terms of heart code oracles that I want to focus on maybe well-being and career, because maybe lifestyle as well. Maybe lifestyle around the transition side of it, and sort of well-being and career for the rest. So it's starting off with the first, where you are at the moment. I want to look at well-being and I want to look at career, because I think these two things are connected. As I say, there's almost that law of diminishing returns if you don't start the shift. So let's first of all look at career around this new role, this new approach that Spirit is suggesting for you to go through the transition. And we get prioritization. So that suggests to me, as I've felt all along, you're not throwing out everything at all. You are just prioritizing the other side of your skill set, and now putting the effort into that and being prepared to be a bit vulnerable in the process of doing it. So how does that help your well-being? Treatment. So I think that could be saying, because well-being can be picking up sort of health advice and so forth. It may be saying that if you are finding the transition difficult or prioritizing it difficult, some form of sort of treatment, some sort of maybe discussion with a therapist. I mean, it could be as simple as talking with friends, to be honest. I don't think this is really a major health issue. If it is picking up health stuff around the King of Pentacles, it's treatment that I think goes towards building up the constitution, the sense of nourishment, your diet and that kind of thing, that maybe then helps you prioritize and go through the transition. If part of your denial of all of this is to sort of like zone out, turn on Netflix and eat, potato chips or whatever, it might be thinking about your nutrition and so forth. So if we look here around lifestyle, I think I was thinking of, and around career again. So let's have a look at lifestyle first, because it's like what is important in sort of getting to that inner spiritual knowing that you have, and unlocking the fortune of being prepared to get back into the beginner mindset. So your lifestyle, we have friendship. Okay, so that probably suggests there are people around you who could help, who could make it fun, and who could support you in doing what you're doing and so forth, and make you feel like it's not such a big thing to do this. So make sure that you reach out to your friends, and let's see how that impacts your sort of career or vocation. Trust, yeah. This definitely suggests that for you, there are people, friends around who can help you with this, that you don't have to do it all on your own. Okay, so then if we're looking at the vulnerability, I want to look at well-being for that one, and maybe relationship, actually. I don't think I'll look at career again. I'm going to look at well-being and relationship, because this is all about you being able to be vulnerable with yourself and others. So firstly, we'll look at well-being around that. got holistic therapy. Okay, it's definitely suggesting that as you go through this transition, look into things like holistic therapies, look into meditation, massage, kinesiology, homeopathy, any of those sorts of things. It's that maybe go to a spa with a friend. Frankly, there are ways to help you feel vulnerable but feel supported and feel strong as you do it. And let's have a look at relationship around that too, because this is maybe how you feel with relationships as you're allowing yourself to be more vulnerable. We've got forgiveness. I think that's probably forgiveness of yourself. I think it's forgiving yourself for getting stuck. Once you really start to move through this, you'll realise that it was fine and that you are stronger when you do it. It may also be that in your vulnerability, I'm getting that things maybe that you might have judged in others, maybe you thought were weak or weren't really as good or whatever, you'll actually start to understand those things as strengths and as a journey and a transition that others were going through. So you forgive things as well. It may even be an energy around your friendships, where if there's been any strains around your friendships because you've sort of like gone so much ahead potentially with being seen, recognised, success or whatever, it actually is a road towards forgiveness for you as well too, because by being strong enough to be vulnerable, you allow people in who maybe have felt a bit in awe of you. So let's have a look at the other cards that were under the Hermit card. So this is meant to be the light energy around you, the shadow energy around you, and then what needs to be healed. So the light energy is sensitivity. Okay, so I think that works on a number of levels. I think you are highly sensitive, you're highly spiritual, but you worry. I think you conflate vulnerability and sensitivity. You think to show those areas of vulnerability or sensitivity could be showing weakness, but in actual fact, it's that energy that creates the rose, that creates the spiritual development and so forth. And the more you attune to that, the more sensitive you get to others. It's also, I think, why we get this double treatment concept of like allowing you to understand that your body is kind of your radar. It's highly sensitive as well too. So keeping it in tune and comfortable as you go through the transition is very important. The shadow energy for you. So we've got death. The eternal cycle begins here. So this doesn't mean you're going to die. That's not what this is about. But it is a major transition. So the death card in tarot is always about choice and transition. The death card here is about the cycle, a really big spiritual cycle, the eternal cycle here. So it is, in a sense, when it has a winged creature like a moth or a butterfly, that whole sense of the chrysalis and coming out of that, it's becoming more and allowing yourself to be more, to understand that your true soul purpose cycle can begin here. So what do you need to heal to do that? Just to have the courage to do it. And I think it's the courage to be vulnerable, as it said there. It's the courage to not be the best at what you do suddenly, to get into the beginner mindset and to start to build from there. It'll happen a lot quickly and more easily than you expect, but you do need to have the courage to do that, to say, I'm almost starting again, though you won't be throwing out everything at all. It's just you're taking it to a different level. So to help you with that and close out the reading, I'm just going to pull 3 Astro Chakra cards for you. Okay. So I think we start with this is your starting point to most things. And this is why the vulnerability journey is a major transition, but an important one for you. Because in the solar plexus chakra, which is all about self-actualization and power, we have the sun, the inner self. So there is a side of your life path that is the will to be true to who you are and to shine with that, with the sun. So, and to shine in your power. And I think it's your biggest strength, but it's also your biggest challenge, particularly as you transition, as I say, go into the beginner mindset and move into something new. The key to dealing with all of it for you is in how you communicate with others. We have 2 throat chakra with Venus and Jupiter. So it's like having Venus and Jupiter conjunct. So the love energy and the wisdom energy coming together, being able to express what you feel and have the faith in what you're doing. And you should have faith because, as I say, you're very spiritually attuned, you're very sensitive. But you do need to express that to people particularly if you're finding a lack of courage and you're wanting friendship and so forth, or forgiveness if you've maybe put yourself on a bit of a pedestal potentially and you're coming down off it so that you can be more well-rounded and offer more in the end. You're being prepared to be vulnerable. Being able to express that with love and with wisdom, your communication skills are really off the charts and will be incredibly beneficial to you in terms of wealth and success and so forth. But this is both your strength and your Achilles heel at this stage. It won't be always, pile 4. It's just right now when you're transitioning into doing something even more, when you're moving forward. In fact, probably for you in your life, it is a bit like a cycle that will happen again and again. You will reach a particular level and then you will need to almost add something else to your kit bag and transition into even more. But once you've done this once, you'll do it so much easily going forward. You'll know that you don't lose anything that you've had before. You just add to it. And that your example, by being prepared to go through that transition, to be vulnerable, to learn, to reach out, and all of those things, is going to be so powerful for other people and for yourself that, as I say, any transition beyond this will be something you'll welcome rather than resist. So I hope that makes sense for you. I hope that it resonates and you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if this does strike a chord with you and you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.